The screener is on fire. Ronald, one of my good friends, just it's this thing is on fire. A lot of these are just purely based upon what we've been doing, monitoring, waiting for another Ronald. Ronald has actually been on fire, to be fair. Hey team, Apex Trades here. I do hope you are well. So let's just get right into it. We've been using the Apex screener, right? Now this for me is the ultimate reverse trend trader type trader, right? So for me, I like to reverse trend. I don't like to kind of go with the momentum. I'm always trying to find that potential reversal. Now reversals are always difficult. They're not the easiest because obviously it's always, trend is your friend and all that kind of stuff. But with certain metrics, you can get a lot better strike rate. And so I'm just going to go over exactly what the Apex screener is and why it is so profound at finding these really good high probability reversals. I say that with a little bit of caution because obviously it's always going to rely on some level of technical analysis. However, you can actually look at these and say, okay, I want to filter out the crap and I only really want to focus on the stuff that's good. And so let's dive into it, right? So we have 4 metrics, right, on the screener, and the way it works is when you code things like this, you have to have them as an and statement, right? And so we need a number of these things to coalesce in order for the screener to say, okay, this is what you want to look at. And so right now we're doing it on a 15 minute. So every 15-minute candle close, the screener will run its algorithm. It will check. There's around 50-60 tokens that we're currently checking, and we do it based on high volume, right? And so what you don't want to be doing is having to scan the charts every 2 minutes and whatever, trying to find a token that's within your idea of trading. You just want to know where are the bonds that are popping, where are the ones that are expanded, and can we use them to start doing some analysis like you've just seen now, right on the hour at 11:45 UK time. This has just been one that's come in, and we'll maybe have a little look at this in a second. So what are we looking for? So look, I trade pivot points, right? And pivot points, if I just give you an example of pivot points, we can kind of just look at this now. So pivot point, this is the daily pivot point, right? So this is the effective range that the previous day is created from its volatility. So it's the open, the close, and the high divided by 3 to get your pivot point. And then obviously your resistance levels. These are natural resistance levels based upon the calculations of the pivot points. And then the same for support levels. We've got S1 right down to S5 and R1 right up to R5. And these are based upon the calculation of the previous day's kind of events, let's just say. And so when you have high volatility, you normally get a wider pivot point band. When you get low volatility like the day before, roughly here, you get a kind of a more contracted band. And why this is so powerful, by the way, is with pivot points, there's no subjectivity. Everyone uses the same data, so the same calculation. So these pivot points, if I put it on a chart, if you put it on a chart, if someone over in America puts it on a chart, or Asia, whatever, we're all looking at the same data. So we're not open to subjectivity. It's always the same pivot point, based on the standard pivot points. And so the pivot points I use are just the pivot point standard. It's the ones from TradingView. If I just go into my indicators, which I don't seem to be able to find right now, but you can see here they're just called, where's P? Yeah, pivot point standard, and that's the one that you add. I mean, if I just open this up, I've made some alterations to the colors of mine, but I tend to only have one pivot point on. Actually, that's probably fair. I use the traditional, and I have usually on daily, but you can make them all auto. Because I'm day trading, I'm only really interested in the pivot points for the day. But if you go weekly or monthly, it'll show you the pivot point range for the monthly or the previous month candle. So that's that. What else do I do? So these are all, by default, these all come out orange, but I think that's a bit messy. So I like to just have my pivot as white. I like my support to be green, and I like my resistance to be red. And then that's great. We've got the pivot point on the page. So that's the first thing, number 1. Second thing I like is the MFI. I want something to give me an understanding of momentum, and momentum alone is not great, because if you're in a really high trend and high volatile market, you can get loads of really high points that don't necessarily mean, like here as an example, we can see on this, even though the MFI had topped out, we didn't really get much of a retracement down in the grand scheme of the momentum. Realistically, we carried on charting up, so we don't just want to use momentum alone, but it is another factor that we do want. Okay, so that's the momentum. Now I'm going to just shift back to the Discord a second, so you can see what I'm looking for specifically is on the way the screener works. Is it's basically saying, okay, I want to know when I am 1.5% away from a pivot. Could be R, could be S, could be pivot, could be whatever range. Just give me some sort of a. That's the first condition. The second condition is, are we overbought or oversold? Now I'm saying overbought is above 80, and I'm saying oversold is below 20. Of course, we can tweak that if we want to refine it a little bit. The next two are a little bit different. So the BC is basically Bitcoin correlation, and the way I think about this, or the way you should think about this, is, are we pegged to BTC or are we depegged to BTC? And so this value here ranges between -1 and +1. And the closer we get to -1, the further away we're drifting from BTC. So for example, if the token is ADA or WOO or whatever the token is, what it's basically saying is the closer it gets to -0, you could have Bitcoin going down, but you could have, say, WOO going up. And the closer that gets to -1, the more decorrelated it is, or inversely proportional. So I want to know about that without needing to kind of search the charts, because that could mean a token's about to pop. It's some news event that's caused some sort of decorrelation. And so, like, for example, I think Dogecoin recently, because Elon Musk put out that statement, or he changed the Twitter or the X into a Dogecoin symbol, it made Dogecoin do the complete opposite to BTC, and so you'd have seen a negative value on that. And that's, if you're wanting to try to find these tokens that are doing something different to Bitcoin, then that's a good way to do that. That, incidentally, is not incorporated into the statement. This is the first part of the statement. So, are we close to a pivot point, natural resistance or support? Are we overbought or oversold? The Bitcoin correlation is not part of that, but the Z-score, right, which is a very, very important metric, is essentially how many standard deviations are you away from the mean. And in this particular instance, our mean is the 50-period SMA. So right now, you'll see that WOO is 3.23 standard deviations away from that mean. And so, as we're just looking at this, these two came in. Let's go and do a quick analysis on, how I would look to use, these signals. And these come in every 15 minutes. We're looking at these ones that are really starting to look extended. So let's dive in. We're going to go into to WOO or ADA. Let's just have a look. Sorry, wrong one. Let's have a look at WOO. Right. Okay. Let's scroll down. We're going to open up WOO. And now that's exactly what I would anticipate to see, right? So, the signal has come in, it's doing something a little bit crazy, starting to really expand. Of course, what we're interested in is, how do we react to a specific resistance? In this case, it's the R1. Obviously, we're overbought. That's the same thing that we're looking for. Are we overbought? Can we expect a correction? And this is a perfect example of how you would have got in. So, in terms of what I normally do is, once we receive a signal from the screener, what I'm doing is I'm going to that point on the chart and zooming into the 1 minute time frame, because for me, what I'm doing and how I use this is I'm looking to scalp in, right? So you once you get your signal, I'm just drawing a nice trend line, figuring out where that trend line breaks. Of course, that was the break. Then what I want to see is a weak attempt from the bulls to kind of catch that back up. And so realistically, let me just zoom in a little bit here. Let me zoom in. Looking at a couple of things. How are we responding to this zone, right? We've broken support. Now you can just get in straight away once you break that. I don't tend to like to do that. I want to see, some clear rejection. Remember, On the 15-minute, we are massively overbought. We've just hit a pivot point, which is this red line here. And so maybe what I'm thinking is, let's see what the response is like from the bulls. So you're thinking in your head logically, where would I be looking to enter a move here? And so, you know, where's the short position? So I want to see us maybe try to come back up and retest this, and then I would get in. And the beauty about this, by the way, is you could set, once you're in, it has to be a market entry. You don't really want to be looking at anything like a limit order, because you need to be sharp and you need to be swift. I'm not really bothered, if I'm honest, about the target, because I'm going to just manage that based upon market structure of the 1 minute time frame. Each time we create a new lower low, I'm going above the recent market high. It's market high point, and I'm just kind of monitoring it as it goes. So, you know, right now you could argue, when would you get in? When's the most opportune time to get in? And right now we don't know. It could be, I could look at the rejection that we got from here when we had another attempt to push up, but of course we got rejected back down. You can see here another try to get up here. So you know now automatically that this little zone here is becoming really challenging for the bulls. And so with a lot of these different metrics in place, Z-score, you know, out of character from the 15-minute. When I say Z-score, what I'm saying is, on the 15-minute, if I bring up the 50 SMA really quick, how can I do that right now? I can't do that right now because my internet's not great. Anyway, point being, you would see the 50 EMA might look something like this, right? So the 50 EMA is probably like kind of, you know, messing around, but then it goes like that. So the distance between these 2 points, where is it? So it's here, is essentially the deviation, that standard deviation. Now the standard deviation on this one specifically was about 2 or 3 standard deviations. So that's a really interesting metric that you want to be able to monitor and kind of get it you know, a look at. We've also broken, I'm always going to look left, yeah, because I want to see where we've got recent highs. Okay, we've broke the recent highs, but are we going to get some rejection? And that's the fantastic thing about this screener. It's basically giving me the ones that are important. Like now, as we retest this, is probably where I'd get in. Okay, sorry if you can hear my gremlins in the background there. They're all off school, so it is what it is. So again, we've had another test here. We have got some momentum to the upside on the 1 minute, so just being mindful of that. You know, your stop's going to be relatively tight. If we break this here, I'm not bothered, because I'm getting out of the trade, because, you know, the thesis of the rejection didn't play out. But as I got in, right, so I've you know, marked this zone out because of the rejection prior. So I would have got an entry on that point here, and then I'm going to monitor it down. What I'm waiting for, the way I would trade this, is I'd be looking for structure. Okay, so when I mean structure, I'm looking like this. So where is that tool? So we've had this breakdown here. You know, we've had a high, then maybe we break this low here, and then we have another high, and then so on and so forth. Let's just, you know, humor me for a minute, right? So what I would be doing is, there's my break-even point here, right? So I would only break even when we break these lows. And so if that low was there, of course, what I would do is I would bring my stop loss down to where would it be? I'd bring it to break even once we break the low here. And then what I would anticipate is we have another, you know, move to the upside, and then we move down, and so on and so forth. But you can see, I mean, I'm doing this live. I don't know how this trade would turn out. What I'm absolutely looking for is at least something like a 2-to-1 risk to reward, maybe 3-to-1, and just letting the charts tell me when I need to take my profit. Not the other way around. Not just saying I'm going to go to 3-to-1, 4-to-1. I'm just going to wait and see market structure build. New high, new low, new lower high, new lower low. And then I'm just bringing my stop loss down and down until, you know, the market tells me, no, we've had enough movement to the downside now, it's time to kind of move on, you know what I mean? But the most important part is you don't move your stop loss. You know, that is at the high there for a reason. The idea is that we're exhausted to the upside, we're starting to decorrelate. We're also starting to move away from the mean standard deviations of at least 2 or 3. And so a lot's in our favor. There's an awful lot of good things that have gone in our favor, which is why we specifically wanted this token out of whatever tokens. Now, I'm not saying, by the way, it's always going to be like this, but it's why, you know, when you get this information, how do you react? Do you just dive in? No, you wait for structure to break. Do this every single time. It becomes a system, it becomes a trading mentality. You can do these things with the anticipation that you're always going to lose, because that's a good mindset to be in. You know, if we stop out here, okay, I'm good with that. But I know if I do get a win, I'm looking at a 2, 3, maybe even 4, maybe even higher risk to reward ratio. You're not always going to find the juicy ones, but when you do, it counteracts those ones that kind of lose out. And so, you know, why was this one such a good trade? You know, if we go to the 15-minute, you know, we know we've got consolidation here. We've broken this recent high, and then, you know, this consolidation, generally we're bearish. You know, we've got kind of higher low here, lower low, higher low, lower low, higher low, lower low, and this is like, you know, moving up. So realistically, for us to break into bullish structure, we'd have to break this point here. So there's still a lot of high probability that we're going to get a reversal here. So it's not just using the screener, it's also kind of using some basic understanding of markets and how they like to move. But it's a really powerful kind of way in which the screener can give us these really good signals. So what I want you to do, you know, if you want to come along and trade with us, you know, there's a couple of really good things you can do. Number one, come and join the Discord server. I'm going to show you now some of the really good results that the team has been going through. It's been quite a fun ride. Let me just see, where is my Traders Flex? You know, these are all based upon, let's see if we can see any information for anyone from the trades. Out again for 300%. The screener is on fire. Ronald, one of my good friends, just it's this thing is on fire. A lot of these are just purely based upon what we've been doing, monitoring, waiting for another Ronald. Ronald has actually been on fire, to be fair, but a lot of it is, you know, we use the same mentality. We understand how to trade. We understand that not every one of them is going to be a winner, but when they do come in, you know, and you catch that reversal, it's usually a nice move. The other thing you can do is, if you know, we trade specifically on MEXC. Again, if you haven't got a MEXC account, you know, maybe you should consider getting over. We have lots of competitions that are always kind of running. We also have I think my link is actually in the below the server. We're running the compound club competition, just having to make 2% daily, compound that for you know, longer term gains over the long haul. So we trade with a real conviction. We have a kind of a set standard on how we like to trade. I'm always doing live sessions. I'm always trying to educate people. If that sounds like a bit of you and something you want, just head over to the Discord link, come and join the server. Welcome with open arms. That being said, I'll leave this one here and say I shall see you guys in the next one. Peace.